Sarah Ferguson was the one royal who absolutely refused to stay down. No matter the betrayal, the multi-million-dollar ruin, or the public humiliation, she always fought her way back into the spotlight. But suddenly, the flashbulbs have gone completely cold, and she has vanished. Rumors are swirling behind palace walls about a quiet, devastating final move that changed everything. But the truth is far more calculated than anyone realizes. Stick with us until the very end, because the final piece of this puzzle exposes a secret she never wanted the world to see. Most people would have broken under a fraction of the pressure aimed at Sarah Ferguson. To understand why she suddenly vanished, you have to realize she didn't just survive the cutthroat world of the monarchy, she practically rewrote the rules of survival. For years, the public watched in absolute shock as she turned devastating defeats into massive financial triumphs. It all started when the early 90s delivered a blow that should have permanently erased her from public life. Shocking photographs emerged, splashed across global front pages, revealing the Duchess in a highly compromising vacation scandal while still technically married. The palace was furious, the public was repulsed, and she was instantly cast out into the freezing cold. But instead of hiding away in shame, she did something no one saw coming. She crossed the Atlantic, secured high-profile television deals, and reinvented herself as a commercial powerhouse. Just when the world thought she had stabilized her image, an undercover sting operation caught her allegedly offering access to her former husband for a massive under-the-table fee. The footage was devastating, seemingly cementing her social ruin. Yet, reports suggest she used that exact moment of absolute rock bottom to pivot into charity work, children's books, and high-profile media appearances that slowly rebuilt her public standing. Insiders say her ability to weaponize public sympathy became her ultimate superpower, culminating in a deeply personal health battle that had the entire world rooting for her recovery. Every single setback she faced simply set the stage for a spectacular comeback. But the pattern that kept her afloat for 3 decades has suddenly, violently stalled. The old playbook isn't working anymore because the shadow looming over her this time doesn't just threaten her reputation, it threatens to expose a reality she can no longer outrun. Sarah Ferguson didn't just want to escape the shadows of her past, she actively planned to completely conquer them. In recent months, reports suggest she was quietly preparing what was meant to be the most ambitious public relations pivot of her entire life. This wasn't just a simple plan to return to television or release another standard novel. According to sources, she was laying the groundwork for a massive, multi-million-dollar global brand relaunch, aiming to firmly re-establish herself as an independent power player entirely separate from the monarchy. At first, the strategy seemed flawlessly calculated to tap into a wave of renewed public interest. Rumors indicate she was aggressively scouting high-level representation, looking to assemble an elite team capable of securing lucrative production contracts and international media deals. Insiders say her ultimate goal was a triumphant return to the spotlight, utilizing her well-known resilience to frame herself as an empowering figure of survival. The stage was set, and for a moment, the anticipation surrounding her next move was incredibly high. But just as the first pieces of her grand plan were being put into motion, the entire foundation began to crumble in a way no one could have predicted. Instead of a triumphant relaunch, public records suddenly revealed the quiet, systematic shutdown of multiple businesses connected to her name, including several of her primary commercial ventures. Even more devastatingly, her highly publicized personal charity was forced to close its doors for the foreseeable future. The momentum didn't just slow down, it reversed entirely. Her carefully constructed path back to the top had hit an invisible wall, leaving the world to wonder what could possibly have the power to dismantle a comeback strategy this carefully planned. The public survival rules changed forever, and Sarah Ferguson found herself completely blindsided by the shift. In the past, a clever television appearance with Oprah Winfrey or a well-timed historical romance novel could make the public forget almost any controversy. But the modern media landscape is no longer forgiving, and public patience has completely run out. This time, she isn't just fighting a single bad headline, she is fighting a massive shift in how the world views accountability. The ultimate anchor dragging her down is a dark, highly publicized association that simply refuses to stay buried. Reports suggest that unsealed documentation from the recent court disclosures pushed uncomfortable past connections directly back into the spotlight. The public was stunned when leaked emails revealed that Ferguson had allegedly sent messages to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, calling him a supreme friend and a brother, even after his initial conviction. To make matters worse, she was forced to publicly acknowledge that a £15,000 debt of hers had been cleared using his funds. But the pressure isn't just coming from the public, it is mounting from the very top of the British monarchy. Insiders say King Charles III is operating under a much stricter, streamlined approach, and there is absolutely no room for liabilities. Because of these escalating ties, a devastating domino effect has begun. 7 major charities, including the prominent Teenage Cancer Trust, immediately cut ties and revoked her patronage. Her own personal charity, Sarah's Trust, was forced to shut down entirely, and an upcoming book deal was completely cancelled, with thousands of printed copies pulped before hitting shelves. Yet, the most severe blow didn't come from a news leak or a lost contract. It centers around a deeply personal symbol of status, one that defined her entire identity for 3 decades and has now been permanently stripped away. For nearly 40 years, the title of Duchess of York was Sarah Ferguson's ultimate shield and most valuable currency. It was the golden key that unlocked international book deals, high-paying television gigs, and entry into the world's most exclusive circles. But the palace effectively pulled the rug out from under her entire identity when King Charles III officially stripped Prince Andrew of his royal titles, automatically causing Ferguson to lose her status as the Duchess of York. It was a devastating blow, making it clear that she was no longer a protected insider. Losing her title was an absolute catastrophe for her global brand, because without it, she was no longer royal. She was simply a celebrity with a heavily compromised past. The pressure only intensified when the city of York unanimously voted to strip her of her honorary Freedom of the City, a prestige she had held since her 1986 wedding. To make matters worse, King Charles pushed forward with a highly contested eviction notice, demanding that she and Andrew vacate the massive 30-room Royal Lodge in Windsor, their home for nearly 2 decades. Removal lorries were spotted at the property, confirming that her time in the historic mansion had officially run out. This double blow completely changes how the public perceives her. She is no longer seen as the resilient royal underdog fighting against the odds. Instead, the narrative has shifted to a former insider struggling desperately to hold on to the remnants of a vanished life. Reports suggest she has been left completely on the edge, moving out to live separately from Andrew for the first time in years. The safety net that caught her during every single past disaster has been completely dismantled. And as the walls continue to close in, a deeply unsettling realization is beginning to emerge about what her future actually holds. Sarah Ferguson has finally run out of moves, and the grand pattern of her entire life is officially broken. In every previous crisis, from her financial downfalls to public betrayals, she always managed to use the chaos to her advantage, emerging as a relatable fighter. But this time, the magic has completely vanished. Insiders say the combination of lost titles, eviction from Royal Lodge, and the collapse of her commercial ventures has left her with no remaining leverage. The public has simply moved on, leaving her stranded in a world that no longer needs her story. Yet, those who know her best hint that she may not intend to fade away quietly. Rumors indicate she is currently facing a stark, definitive choice that will alter the royal landscape forever. Sources suggest she is considering a highly controversial path forward, potentially collaborating on an explosive, tell-all literary project. With her financial reserves heavily strained and her ties to the monarchy completely severed, a revealing memoir could be her very last chance to secure her future. It would be a high-stakes gamble, pitting her need for survival against the ultimate fury of the palace. But as the pressure reaches an all-time high, the true cost of her choices is finally coming to light. Whether she chooses to break her silence or accept her exile, one undeniable truth remains. The era of the ultimate royal survivor has reached its definitive end, and the final conclusion to her extraordinary journey is about to be written. Sarah Ferguson built an entire reputation on surviving what should have been absolutely impossible. For nearly 40 years, she outlasted multi-million-dollar debts, relentless media criticism, devastating public scandals, and severe personal heartbreak. She was the one figure who could always look at absolute ruin, smile, and find a backdoor path right back into public favor. But every remarkable survival story eventually faces its final insurmountable test. This time, the old playbook has completely failed her. Stripped of her historic Duchess of York title, formally evicted from her 30-room fortress at Royal Lodge, and permanently stained by the shocking disclosures of her hidden prison visits to Jeffrey Epstein, the safety nets have all been cut. The question is no longer whether Sarah Ferguson can engineer another brilliant comeback, but whether there is still a place for her in a world that has officially decided to move on. Her era as the ultimate royal survivor has finally reached its end, leaving behind a cautionary tale of just how high the price of royal survival can truly be.